I'm Stephen Foskett, organizer of Tech Field Day and Gestalt IT, and this is the On-Premise IT Roundtable podcast. Today we're doing a special episode. We are on premises at NetApp Insight with some of the folks who were involved from the very beginning with Tech Field Day. However, the premise of this week's episode is perhaps not as controversial as you're used to. Basically, we're reminiscing about the start of Tech Field Day. The reason we're doing that is because this month, November 2019, marks the 10th anniversary of both Gestalt IT and Tech Field Day. So we're going to talk a little bit about where it came from and what it was like starting it and getting involved in it from the very beginning. Tune in next time. We'll be back on premise with another controversial subject recorded live on premises. Thanks for joining us. I'm Stephen Foskett, organizer of Tech Field Day and Gestalt IT, and we are here at NetApp Insight in 2019. But I actually gathered these guys around me because they were involved back in 2009, 10 years ago, in the creation of Tech Field Day. So here at the table, we've got Ray Lucchese, we've got the inevitable Greg Neerman, and we've got the ineffable Chris Evans. And so all of us, I think all of us were at the, you weren't at the HP Storage Day, no. But so Ray and Greg, you guys were at the HP Storage Day, and then a couple of us got to talking at that thing, and we said, what if we had a different kind of event? And
I remember being on the plane ride home to Cleveland, sitting right next to you, and you were like, what if we did ...
Exactly, and that's so. I mean, Ray, had you been to a lot of events like that?
No, it was very unusual to be invited, and I just started blogging probably 4 or 5 years ago prior to that, and Calvin invited me to the event because I was a storage blogger and interested in the HP products and portfolio at the time, and it was great to see all the executives there have a free reign kind of conversation to some extent, free range, I guess, conversation with them, and to have a lot of that be recorded and be available online was pretty radical at the time. So from that perspective, it was great to hear the technology, and B, it was great to get the exposure.
Well, I'm not sure it was recorded.
Wasn't it recorded?
I don't think it was.
I think you did. The HP one?
Yeah, the HP one.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't recorded.
Yeah, my understanding is that they didn't record it because that was actually probably the biggest thing that we missed when we decided on making Tech Field Day. So I had a video crew there, but we didn't post the videos by default. We didn't live stream them because there was really no live streaming on the internet at that point. But but we didn't actually publish the videos.
We're old. There was a lot of. It seemed like there was a lot of media equipment there and stuff like that. They were taking a lot of photographs and stuff like that, but they just didn't do a live recording, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they recorded it.
I guess we'll have to talk to Calvin.
Yeah, we'll have to.
It's probably in some HPE object store someplace, being maintained forever.
But that was like the core of our discussion, though, was that it was so. What Ray said is it was cool to have the opportunity to speak with these executives and have them recognize the importance of bloggers, right?
Well, it was the very day of influencers, and I don't know. Do we call ourselves influencers, or were we
no,
called
just
influencers
then?
Yeah, we hated that name.
Well, now we hate it more.
Yeah,
it's even worse. There's a stigma with that, but it was very unique in the respect. And it was also good from a mutual networking perspective, right? Because
from that perspective, you got to learn. You got to learn a lot about the people that are around there and who's blogging. And Calvin's trying to bring all these people together from very diverse backgrounds and diverse organizations and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been great from a networking perspective.
And let's face it had made a lot of careers too.
Absolutely, and that was the thing. I mean, so there was other companies as well.
Not least of which is yours.
Oh, that's well, thanks. Yeah, that's what we were, discussing at the time was the networking aspect of it, and the fact that the most powerful and valuable thing for me was to spend some time with all of you guys and to get to know you all really and have you all become friends and so on. And there were other companies doing it as well. I mean, I remember at the same time I went to a Dell one and I went to an EMC one that same year.
Huh.
I guess you weren't invited, Ray.
I wasn't. I didn't make the cut for some reason. Why wouldn't I make the cut? But then again, who knows?
It was in a storage one. It was like there was like a
Dell server kind of thing,
and there was an HP.
There was an HP Blades one. I went to that one.
Yeah, lots of Blade stuff.
Yeah,
and so after the event, Neerman and I we sat on the plane and we talked about it the whole way back to Cleveland.
No way.
Everybody was glaring at us.
That was
on
the
plane.
gestation of Tech Field Day and all that stuff.
I said, "There's no way this is going to work." I'm kidding. No, but it basically was taking what these little pieces, parts that other people were doing, and pulling it together to where it was cohesive, and there was actually a strategy to that level of engagement.
Yeah,
I think also having different vendors. When you're seeing one vendor stand up, it could end up being just them marketing to you, whereas different vendors turning up and actually presenting similar but different subjects. I think that is a real difference.
But not to go negative, but I remember the first 2 tech field days, and by the end of it, I'm like, Stephen, I am burned out. I mean, we were going from 6 in the morning to 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Stephen's a taskmaster, man. He won't let us sleep. He won't let us party or anything like that.
The challenge is if it wasn't your full-time job and you had another full-time job and you still had emails and other things to reply to, I was like, holy crap. I mean, there's like no break. This is like nonstop. And I had to, after the second one, I had to pull out the white flag and surrender.
Really?
Not because it wasn't...
You could do that for them? They never allowed us to do that sort of stuff.
Not allowed to leave.
No, you got to do what I say.
Claire's a taskmaster, man.
Yeah, I remember she used to... I remember she banged on somebody's door one morning.
Trying to wake them up. It's time to get up. This was like 4 o'clock in the morning for the 7 o'clock presentation.
But that's where recording the videos and having the videos afterwards is invaluable. And that's... it's got multiple purposes, one of which is it allows you to go back and understand what you've been presented at without having to take tons and tons of notes. But obviously the main benefit being for everybody else who's watching.
Yeah, and that was like a big thing. So, but back to what you said about the multiple vendors, because that was a big thing. Because I felt kind of weird. I felt kind of used being at HP's event and having only HP, and it was like dinner with HP and breakfast with HP and all day long with HP, and I was really worried about how that would reflect, reputation-wise.
Yeah, it appears to be like just broadcast marketing otherwise. Yeah. So at least, even if you might even discuss the same subjects, although I don't know whether you've done that, whether you've done like data protection, primary storage, network stuff. I know you do networking ones, dedicated networking ones, but whether you've done themes where you could say, here's 3 vendors over the course of the event and 3 different ways of saying data protection. In fact, you have done that. So that gives a good contrast, actually.
We try not to do that because we don't want it to be a shootout between the vendors. Like, I wouldn't want to do like object storage field day and have like all the object storage companies come in and say, wow, we're better than them. But yeah, it has been one of those things where...
Yeah, that sounds right. Chris is going to start his own tech field day. It's going to be deathmatch field day.
We kind of did that because we did the symposium events that kind of started and then ended, because those were supposed to be topical. But I just didn't like
that didn't work
doing
that well. Yeah.
But, so Chris, how did... so you and I had been working together on Gestalt IT before field day.
Yes. I can't honestly remember. I'm trying to think back to what was going on at the time. And I struggle to remember how the whole thing came together, to be honest.
Well, I have the original email.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so 2008, I basically emailed, like, Greg Farrow, Chris Evans, Martin Glassborough, Rich Bramley.
Was Devang part of that?
Yeah, yes. Devang. Yeah. And I said, I can't, just talk about storage. Like, I need to learn about other parts of IT, and we need to all get together. And so we were kind of doing these, group discussions that led to blog posts.
Wow. I honestly, I'm really trying to think hard about what it was like, but I can't remember.
Amazing what happens when you get old and stuff like that.
I'm gonna have to go look at the email trail.
Yeah, so we started it. Yeah, that was the end of 2008.
Wow.
And then in 2009 we did the HP day, and then literally 4 days after. So I talked to Nirman on the plane. I, called up some of the vendor folks like Mark Farley, who was at 3PAR.
Yeah.
And, he got, Craig Nunez to buy in. I called Sean Darrington at Symantec, John Troyer, and talked to him about it. Sunshine.
Sunshine.
Yep. And Georgiana and, Bava, Liz from Bava. And they all said, yeah, I think this could work. And literally 4 days after that flight, I was on John Troyer's podcast saying, we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be called Tech Field Day.
Ah, wow.
Do you remember me inviting you to it?
Sort of. I've not got a very good memory like that.
Yeah.
It's funny because there was a lot of other events at the same time. So we had the Hitachi one, remember, in Japan, which is 2010.
I didn't get to go to that.
Oh, did you? Oh, well, you weren't good enough. You had your own event.
Well, Robin Harris made it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So there were things happening at the time. So I think that was an exciting time because there was a number of people trying to find the right formula to make this sort of thing work.
Well,
Yeah.
it was a risk for Stephen. I mean, let's
massively,
cover what it
yeah.
is. I mean, I don't know what your financial outlay was up front to get this launched, but you had to be conscious of the budget to make it work.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing, honestly. So I've always been a believer in sort of back of the envelope. So two rules: back of the envelope estimation and a 50% margin. And if you can do that, then everything else will fall into place, because you're always wrong about the costs. They're always bigger than you think,
Right.
but hopefully they're not 50%
Bigger.
or 100%. And so, so I was
gosh.
wrong about the Tech Field Day. So the total outlay for that was more than my annual take-home salary,
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
and I
For
put
the
the
first
whole
Tech
thing on
Field
my
Day?
Amex card.
Wow.
No kidding.
And
Wow.
so that
I'm
could have
impressed.
been very bad for me.
So incidentally, I'm never employing you as a consultant.
Excellent.
If your intention is to put 50% margin in everything, I'm
Yep.
not-
Oh, well.
Well, because I always underestimate how much things are going to
yeah,
cost.
it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very, very difficult, and there are unexpected things that come
For
up.
Stephen, it's not margin, it's buffer.
Yeah, it's buffer.
It's more like
Until you've
buffer.
Run a number of events, you're not going to know how that's going to pan out. So
Yeah,
I do the
you've
same
got to
thing
start
with
somewhere.
development schedules, quite frankly. It's roughly, it's got to be a 50% buffer or we're not even trying
Yeah.
it. Because
Well, Mr. Scott's
typically,
rule was
it's
a
always
factor of
late.
4.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Because that way you're 50% under.
something like that.
Yeah. So in fact, I missed the first Tech Field Day presentation. I don't know if you guys even know this, but the whole time you guys were listening to VMware and Supermicro,
You trying to get an extension on your
I was
credit
in the
card?
parking lot on the phone with the bank manager and the credit card.
No.
Wow.
No kidding. I'm impressed.
Yep.
Wow.
But then the other thing that happened is just after I arranged it so that the hotel bill wouldn't bounce, I got a call from the folks at EMC. And it wasn't Stu. I think it was actually Chuck who called me and
Chuck
said,
Hall.
"This is awesome. When's the next one?"
You're like, I need a PO
And
now.
I said, April. And then I went in and I told Claire, I said, "Guess what we're doing in April?" And she said, "What?" And it's in Boston. She's like, "What?" Yeah. But that's how it started. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
But
So
it-
when did you start live streaming and all that stuff? How did that play out?
Yeah, well, that was actually kind of a funny story. It was actually Jen Huber at Networking Field Day 1. She brought along a webcam, and she was live streaming it. Like, she just set a webcam on the table in front of us and was
No way.
live streaming it herself to some service. I don't even know what it was. And because she's like, "Hey, can I do this?" I'm like, "Sure, no problem." And a bunch of people were watching. And we're like,
And
"Oh,
Steve was like, hey, I can
that's
monetize
an
that.
idea." No, well, the funny thing about the video too is that I thought I could monetize it because I was going to sell it as an upsell.
Yeah.
That's where the profit was going to come from. So I was going to basically run the event at cost, and then I was going to make a profit based on having the companies come back and say, "Yeah, we'll buy the video of that." But the companies all said, "Why should I buy a video of my own presentation?"
Right.
And so what we did was we jacked up the price of the event
Yeah, to cover the cost.
to cover the cost.
And say, and you get a video.
And you get a free video.
Yeah.
Exactly. And from then on, we did the free video, and then we added the live streaming. And now that's the big thing. Like, people come up to me, like somebody came up to me here at NetApp Insight and was like, "Hey, I know you from Tech Field Day." And I'm like, "I don't know you from Adam." But but that was really cool to have people recognize us. And I know you guys have gotten that sometimes
Oh
too.
God, yeah,
It's-
I've been in many shows.
Even at this one, there are people who've come up and said that the Pure one. Were you there when that happened?
No.
The guy came up and said, "I love what you do," and then he walked off. And then Ken said to me, "Can I have your autograph?" I won't say what I said to him,
Yeah.
but if you're watching, Ken,
Yeah,
I'm watching you.
So,
But it happens all the time, and it's
It
really
does, at these sort
unnerving
of
to
shows
begin
and
with.
stuff like that.
But it's really positive because it shows you that there is a big audience out there who watch this stuff and listen and really actually go and look and find out who you are. You know?
Sometimes I feel like a rock star with gurus and stuff like, people follow me and stuff like that. But yeah, it's impressive. I'll come around the show and people come up to me and thanking me for being on Tech Field Day, and I learned a lot from your presentation, your questions at these sorts of events and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and that's, the coolest thing is that people, Tech Field Day couldn't happen without the delegates around the table. And the coolest thing that happens is people say, I felt like I was at the table. I felt like these people are asking the questions I would have asked.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that makes it legit. In fact, we even told the video team at one time, we told them to dial down the professionalism because they were just too slick. And they were kind of cutting out the delegates and cutting out the wires and cutting out the coffee cups. And I was like, no, we kind of want it to look real.
A little bit of
right.
Because otherwise it just doesn't feel legit. And that's really cool. So it's worked out. I mean, what do you think? Any?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So how many of the companies that we saw day one are still in existence? Number two, how many of those companies have gone on to be much bigger successes over the years?
Well, day one, I mean, so the first Tech Field Day event, the only company that still exists in its original form is VMware.
Yeah.
They had already been bought by EMC. You know, they're still owned by Dell EMC, and they're still pretty much the same VMware.
Yep.
I mean, Troyer has moved on, but overall the product is the same, company is the same. Symantec was there, and then they changed pretty dramatically, and the products have shifted and so on. So they're not exactly the same, though the logo is the same. But pretty much all the rest of the companies. Yeah. I mean, Supermicro was...
Seagate got acquired.
Yeah, Seagate got acquired.
Who was the compression?
Yeah, Ocarina Networks
got acquired by Dell.
Yeah, 3PAR is now obviously HPE Primera. You know, so 3PAR, like the technology is still there, but the company is gone. And that's one of those things you look back on it and you're like, wow, so much of this stuff has changed, and yet we're still here.
Okay, next question then. How many companies launched at Tech Field Day?
I actually looked that up a couple of years ago, and the number was like over 20.
Was Drobo in
including
there?
some big ones, not Drobo, but some big ones like Zerto, Nutanix, Pure Storage, Nimble Storage.
Never heard of them.
Never heard of those guys. Yeah. There was a bunch of companies like that their first public presentation or that it was coordinated with their launch. Yeah. Zerto actually launched or gave us a presentation before their public launch, and then we held it under embargo for a couple of weeks.
Right.
And actually, like 5 years ago, I actually thought of putting together like a Tech Field Day index fund, not like as a joke. Like, what if I had put $1,000
like a VC
into each of these companies when they went public?
Well, see, now
there's been a bunch of public companies too. So any other questions or thoughts or?
I guess the obvious one has to be, what happens over the next 10 years? What can you do to innovate or change to keep
holographic
progress with
quantum
the way that social media...
Quantum Computing Field Day.
No, VR headsets, Tech Field. Yeah. So everybody in the world can be at Tech Field Day.
So
asking questions.
That's not exactly what I was saying. I wasn't thinking of something as obtuse as that. I was thinking about how do you keep it relevant going forward?
Yeah, and well, one of the things we're doing is we're adding different topics. And we're actually thinking of adding some new topics next year. I won't say which, but we're thinking of looking at some new topics because topics do come and go, like the wireless field day.
Yeah.
And frankly, I mean, I hate to say it as a storage guy, but I mean, storage field day, we probably don't need 2 or 3 storage field day events a year. We probably only need one because the industry is smaller. But maybe we need an AI field day.
Oh God,
like we added a cloud field day.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a subtitle in all of our things. They're all enterprise.
Right.
So it's not like networking field day, like Linksys routers, right? It's enterprise networking field day, and it's enterprise mobility and enterprise storage.
I think you need a containers field day.
I don't think so.
You're missing a big.
But there should be a DevOps or a CI/CD
like maybe it's a cloud spin-off or something.
App ecosystem type.
Exactly. So we did the
lots
cloud
of those
field
things.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I think that the thing. But I mean, frankly, the other thing is that right from the beginning, like people have been saying, like you should go big. You should do like whiskey field day and all this kind of stuff. That's not what we're doing. I never wanted to do that, and we don't need to be huge. We don't need to have 50 events in 50 different topics and something going on, 2 things going on every week, because I just want to live in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing, is that we are able to continue to do this as long as it's fun.
Blockchain field day. You heard it here first.
I heard blockchain is going to be the future. Well, thank you guys. It was Tech Field Day couldn't have happened without folks like yourselves. I mean, Ray, I'm sorry I didn't bring you to the first one.
I didn't make the cut.
I guess you didn't. What I did wrong. And Greg, I miss you. I wish you could be. Why don't you quit or get fired?
The funny thing is that we both live in the greater Cleveland area, and we never have seen each other in the Cleveland area,
except at the airport. Yeah, or on the plane. Literally on the plane. Yes. I see Greg.
So he's behind the scenes now, though. Rather than being up front as a delegate, he's behind the scenes occasionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Back there. And Chris, thanks for being part of it all these years.
I've enjoyed it. It's been great.
Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. And it's great that we could sit down here at...
No, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us.
Thank you to your Amex card.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
It all possible.
And thank you, Amex, for funding this whole thing.
The On-Premise IT Roundtable is once again brought to you by Gestalt IT, home to IT coverage from across the enterprise. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Gestalt IT and at facebook.com/Gestalt IT. Very original. The On-Premise IT Roundtable is produced by Rich Straffolino. That's me! Until next time, from all of us here at Gestalt IT, have a super sparkly day.